How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another one of my guides. In this series, I will move away from tech and talk more about Peach's neutral. I'm going to split this discussion into two videos. One, this video is going to be on defensive gameplay, and another is going to be on aggressive gameplay. So without further ado, let's get into not approaching with Peach. First, I will discuss the aggressive playstyle used by Rushdown characters and many others. It involves running at your opponent and taking advantage of quick ground speed or quick air speed and very good burst options. With these, an aggressive player can pressure you and condition you into picking bad options that they can read and punish. Playing against these characters can be very overwhelming, especially if you're not used to the playstyle. But the good news is, there is a decent amount of counterplay to this strategy, and very few characters in the game actually have good tools necessary for Rushdown. Because the thing is, Ultimate is a very defensive game by design. This gives Peach players an advantage because defensive play is the style that Peach players like playing the most. Peach likes it when you're the one approaching her, as opposed to the other way around, meaning her matchups against Rushdown players are generally pretty good, and the characters she loses to are characters that can get away with not approaching. Why, you might ask? Well, Peach doesn't have very good approach options due to her limited air speed and ground speed. Her approach options are linear, predictable, they have high startup, or they're going to be assisted by turn-ups, which you might not always have. So the moral of the story, letting your opponent approach you is a great strategy with Peach. So let's discuss the following scenario. You're being harassed by a typical Rushdown player. What do you do? Or better yet, what shouldn't you do? What you shouldn't do is get really scared and end up shielding. Holding shield in disadvantage is one of the worst things you can do in Ultimate, especially when playing Peach. Almost every character in this game is capable of at least decent shield pressure, making it a worse option than in previous titles. In general, shielding an opponent's move is not going to get you anywhere and can even put you further into disadvantage. As a part of this guide, I will detail Peach's out of shield options in case you do need to shield in disadvantage. And spoiler alert, they aren't that good. Neutral air and back air short hop out of shield are going to be some of the fastest options she has, however they have very limited range and are unsafe on hit at lower percents. Potentially her best out of shield option is ground float back air, which is relatively fast and safe. The inputs for this are a bit tricky and it might take some practice to get used to this input. While holding shield, you have to input a jump, and within your jump squat you have to hold down to initiate the float, then you can aerial and land on the ground. Note that with your control scheme, you have to be able to push shield and jump at the same time. Do not get this confused for dropping shield first and then inputting the aerial. Peach's even better out of shield options come from turnips. A forward throw turnip out of shield is frame 8 and a back throw turnip out of shield is frame 11. Not to mention, short hop Z drop turnip throw out of shield is frame 4 but can only be used if your opponent lands directly on top of your shield. Overall, you can afford to hold shield more when being pressured if you have a turnip in hand. Here are some more options that you should avoid when dealing with pressure. One of these is the overall lack of movement, and this is due to most opponents being able to run up to you and just hit you without you being able to react. Another bad option, especially with Peach, is mashing a hitbox to escape combos. The fastest thing you can mash is Nair. Even this is kind of slow and can be unsafe on hit at lower percents, putting you into an even worse position. Although there's nothing wrong with using roll or spot dodge as Peach, it's generally not a good idea to keep picking the same option to escape the Rushdown opponent. Rushdown characters are looking for a panic option that they can punish really hard. Alright, here are the things I believe you should do to play an effective defensive neutral. Those are to stay mobile, mix up your defensive options, and to always watch your opponent. This is going to require you to have good control over Peach's movement. Peach is kind of a hard and awkward character to get used to, so training mode is going to be your best friend. An example of what good movement can do for you is, of course, Dandy Man. In these clips, he is playing the White Daisy, and he has some of the best Peach movement I've ever seen. He is one of the only players I've seen with complete control over the character. Peach moves exactly where he wants her to go. This does lots of good because his movement is very fast and very unpredictable, meaning approaching him is an absolute nightmare. He is also incorporating lots of fast and safe hitboxes to essentially take up space on the stage. And you know how Peach works, if you get hit by any of these, you might be taking 70% off of a single conversion. Here are some examples of good defensive hitboxes. Try variations of Falling Nair. This is a terrible approach option, but it works well if your opponent is running in and trying to get under you. It is fast, safe on shield, and leads to huge combos. Spamming back air is a perfectly valid way to play a defensive neutral. This you also need to practice, as it involves doing several quick float cancels, while maintaining your drift in the backwards direction. To get the drift right, you can simply hold backwards on your control stick while you are doing the back air. If you are spamming back air and the opponent tries to jump over you, you can catch their jump with an attack cancel back air, or simply a short hop back air. The last general defensive option I want to mention is just to mix up your float heights. By doing this, you give Peach a lot of aerial acceleration and unpredictability in the air. On other defensive movement, I have 2 videos on techniques related to them, but I will touch on 2 of them here. One of them is SHJCFF. This gives you greater mobility and access to more options on the ground. Long story short, you basically get access to standing options out of a dash, which is kind of cool. My personal favorite defensive movement option is DJCFF because it allows for great positioning mix-ups and combo starting aerials near the ground. When you use these options and engage with your opponent in neutral, it's going to lead to a strategy called bait and punish. This is Peach's most effective strategy when playing neutral. Basically, you use deceptive movement to make your opponent whiff, and then capitalize off the whiff by hitting your opponent. This is how you go from neutral to advantage state, where you take advantage of Peach's great combo game. Of course, the overall concept of neutral is way more complicated than this, but this is a great mindset to have when playing Peach. If you want to hear about this from a different perspective, Poppet1 did a fantastic video on bait and punish. I'll leave a link to that below. If you need practice with any of this, check out Online Smash, everyone's favorite, where all sorts of characters with garbage frame data feel the need to run at you at all times, mashing as many buttons as possible. If you can get past the lag and the occasional Samus, I believe this is a great way to learn defensive play. Anyway, that's all I have to say for this video. Neutral is a very tricky topic, and I hope I at least did an okay job covering it. I have a few more videos on the way, including one on approaching with this character. That'll be out shortly. Until then, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.